we're moving on to rituals with fire. Now, what are the properties and the symbols associated to fire? Well, first of all, in the state of matter it is in, it's plasma. So the atoms are excited to such a point that the electrons start jumping up and down in their different levels, and that gives off light. So there's energy invested in those atoms, and they give off that energy showing light. Light is one thing, and heat is obviously the other property that we're going to get out of fire. We use fire for one of the two reasons, or sometimes both. What is being consumed, because something is disappearing or being transformed during the process, can be wood, can be wax. Let's say in the church usually it's one or the other. And in some cases it would be oil or another petroleum product. But that would be just like old lamps that we would use. Today it would be mostly wood and wax. Now something with the four elements that only fire has is that it can be transmitted. You don't transmit. You don't transmit air or water or soil, but fire is being produced, and then you can transmit it to somewhere else. I'm talking about candles specifically, where the fire goes. But even in a wildfire, you can see it being transmitted. You can see it grow. One thing that fire has in common with living things is that it needs oxygen. If you cut off the oxygen, well then the fire dies out. We even use that word in English. It dies, which kind of implies that it was living before. Now, what are the symbols that come from the Bible and also from our rituals when we concentrate on fire? So first of all, it's perceived as the glory of God, divine light. I'll talk about the Easter Vigil in a moment, and you'll see that the fire is a symbol for God. Also the risen Christ, the light in the darkness. It's a sign of hope, right, to have light in our nights. And also love and presence of God. It's like a hug. It's warm. So fire mostly represents God, but also it can be our personal flame of faith. And then when you have votive candles, well, it's not the light of God, it's my personal light wanting to shine to God. So my prayer continues. So let's explore all of these rituals. First one, the Easter Vigil fire. We call it the new fire. It's the light of the risen one, and it's light that shines in the night. Now, this picture shows very clearly that first we turn on this fire. Depending on the churches, the fire can be relatively small or quite big. Some people do it inside the church, but not facing the altar, completely at the other end, at the entrance. Or some people do it outside, near the entrance of the church. And we see the Paschal candle is being turned on, lit, from that new fire. Fire of the resurrection. And then, this is one of the only pictures I found where we see the full moon. You know the reason why Easter changes dates every year? It's because the tradition comes from the fact that first you find the equinox, the beginning of spring. Okay, so you find the spring equinox. Then, after that date, you find the next full moon. And after that, you find the next Sunday, and that becomes Easter. So Easter, or the Easter Vigil, the Saturday before, is always very close to a full moon. And what does that represent? Well, clearly, light through the darkness. Christ rising is the light through the darkness. And so that little fire we have is also light through the darkness. Now this new fire, this new light through the darkness is shared, is transmitted through the faithful. It starts with that Paschal candle, and then we light from it, and then we share that single light source. And for those who have never experienced the Easter Vigil, to be at church during that holy night, it's just amazing. The whole church is completely dark. People are just waiting, and they see that single light source as it starts, and then it's shared to all the people, and it brings so much warmth and joy to see that light, and we reignite the faith we have. So it's really beautiful. And what do we feel? We feel the people's faith, but also the presence of God. That Christ is rising in each and every one of us. So this is the new fire, the light of the resurrection, the presence of God. And how do we share the light? Now, I just want to stop a moment because this is a really interesting property. I just love the fact that it works this way. I think symbolically it's very strong. So you have one candle, one person who already has the light, and another person who wants to have it turned on. So the light that's already turned on, how do you do it? Do you take that light that's already lit? Sorry, the candle is lit, and then you come and you want to light the other one? Is that the easiest? No, because the wax is dripping down, and the flame is going up, and so it's very hard. So how do you do this? It's actually the other way around. If the flame is flickering like that, well, then you come with the other candle, and then it'll be transmitted, and then it turns on. So what's the best way to transmit the faith? Is it to be arrogant and I have the light and I will show you the light, and then you go on top and then it's not helping the other one turn on to light the candle? Or is it rather, since I have the light, I shall be humble and give more space and elevate the other so that person can partake in that light? So I hope you understood my explanation, but I just love the fact that fire works that way and the candles work that way. And when we share, well, that's the best way. I got to talk about this big candle called the Paschal candle. Paschal from Easter, the word in Latin. It holds the light of the risen one. It's lit between Easter and Ascension, so it's lit for 40 days for the Mass every day. And then we don't turn it on every Sunday, we simply light that candle at baptisms and funerals. And then, since we're talking about that, we also light the baptism, the Paschal candle. We light it also during confirmation, for example, or even First Communion. And we light it to remember the risen Christ, and people, the kids or the adults, they get their baptismal candle and we light it again. So it's always the presence of God, the presence of the risen one, the presence of Christ. In the Orthodox Church, we like candles made out of beeswax a lot. And so there's a tradition with the bishop. The bishop in the Byzantine Rite will hold two sets of candles. One is called the dikyrion, that is the one with two candles, and the trikyrion, which is the one with three. The dikyrion contains two candles representing the dual nature of Jesus, human and divine. And the trikyrion contains three, representing the three persons of the Holy Trinity. God is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So they're held, and there's a blessing, and that's what it represents. It can be done whenever a bishop comes to visit a congregation, and it can also be done at Easter. Voilà. All of these examples I've shown, the light is a symbol of God, a symbol of Christ. For this last one, the votive candles, it is not the light of God. It is actually our internal light, the light of our faith. And so the worshiper entrusts the flame to continue the prayer. We show an exterior symbol of the faith that we hold inside. And then we light that candle, and that candle will keep on burning, which shows a continual prayer. So kind of interesting. I can't imagine not having the fire for Easter or the Paschal candle or all these flames. They're a real part of my spirituality, and they're an element from nature that is continually taken care of in our rituals. So there you go for fire.